What the fuck? Hello. Welcome back. No, I'm joking. Right. Anyway. Where are we at with this? Let's see. Now, based on the title of this video, it's clear that you know exactly what it's about. Now, when I say not quite right, some of you may be thinking, well, maybe the horror just fell flat. Or maybe some of you even thought, well, the acting might have just been terrible. And I guess even for some of you, you might think I'm just an A1 hater. But realistically, in truth, while 2/3, maybe even 100% of you are correct, this film failed in two major departments. Now, the new Conjuring follows the final case of the Warrens family, and it revolves around the Smurls, who are tormented and find themselves at the mercy of an entity during a period of time where the Warrens are kind of just trying to hang up the gloves. And as you can probably imagine, this film isn't all bad, so how about we begin there? Now, this film creates a beautiful story for the Warrens, one that shows the true depth of their connection, the importance of their work, and just how far they've come as people. Each important character in this movie gets their own character arc that is nicely and, maybe not so much neatly, but nicely tied off at the end of the film. We are shown that despite their years of experience, they were still approaching situations in a manner that was not necessarily for the betterment of themselves. This movie pushed them, put them in a predicament that really pushes them to their utmost limits as individuals, allowing for an introspective assessment of their own emotions and values. And that is a really great experience if that's the movie you're going to see. I feel as though because this film was designed as a send-off for the Warrens, that there was a heavy focus on their emotional development and a heavy follow-through on completing their arcs before the film ended. But that did then lead them into a situation that brings me to their first major blunder. Now, through this emotionally driven film, horror felt as though it was the second thought. It kind of felt like I went to an Indian and they served me chow mein with a side of onion bhajis. I'm not exactly sad or annoyed necessarily about the chow mein, but realistically, I did come to an Indian. Do you get what I'm saying? The horror was lackluster. It was gimmicky. The jump scares were predictable, the inconsistent suspense, and honestly, it felt like they were using suicide as an attempt to garner shock value just to keep us interested. And if I'm honest, this lack of care for the horror, I think, really shows in the goofy attempt at using CGI for key moments of horror. There were scenes that were meant to produce a scare, or at least show the gravity of the situation, but they were completely ruined by awful CGI. And I think even if it was good CGI, I think it just would have taken us out of the situation either way. It completely ruins the immersion. Now, this brings me, well, actually the 2 points are not connected, but this brings me to my second point. Now, obviously, we're following the family of the Smells and we're following the family of the Warrens, and both of their stories are, of course, important to the climax, just to the story as a whole. But the problem here is, unlike in the first few, one took precedent over the other, correct? You watch the first Conjuring, yes, even with the second, we have their little moments of what's going on with their, how they're at home, but like very small moments for the Warrens, and then the big focus is obviously the main family, the story. Whereas in this film, it felt like both were obviously equally as important, and both were given equally as much time. But the problem with that is, it was hard to really care about the Smell situation because they put so much time and effort, of course, into making sure that the Warrens' emotional development, that was like the key thing. So that's the key things we're focused on. And then also we're shunted back into the Smell's horror and the shite life they're experiencing. And it kind of felt like we had two A-plots. And one was kind of dipping into like a subplot, but it couldn't because it was still kind of the main plot of the film. You know what I mean? And then at the end, we're kind of just forcing these two things together, and it completely is it just feels so forced, so unnatural. There's no organic connection. There's no organic formulaic way for them to have put those two things together, And maybe there was, but they just didn't do it, if you get what I'm saying. So they failed to create like a consistent and coherent story, in my opinion. In my opinion, it was like the Warren story was my main thing. And then the smells, they kept bringing us back. And I was like, oh shit, fuck yeah, we're dealing with the smell. That's like the whole point of the story. And, you know, without being too spoilery, I might put a spoiler in right now. Right. Now, without being too spoilery, it just doesn't really make any fucking sense, to be completely honest. You know, this demon, obviously, this demon forced her to be pregnant, had this connection with her baby, Judy, and then instead of just terrorizing the Warrens the entire time, it used 3 spirits from the Smells family to somehow terrorize them, to terrorize the Smells and to terrorize Judy the entire time. And it was just like, okay, I get it. You need to be where the mirror is, but you're clearly a magic mirror. You clearly are. They threw you out and put you in the bin, and you teleported back in the house. You telling me you couldn't have just appeared at the Warrens' house? They got so much fucked up shit there anyway. You might as well have. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's really not important, but I was just like, it just made no sense. I just felt like the story just made no sense. Like, there was such a focus on the character arcs and the character development and all this stuff, that was like clearly what everyone cared about, that we missed out on a coherent and consistent story. Now, let me not completely, let me not end on a negative. Let me finish on a positive. If I had one takeaway from this film, it's that, Judy, Mia Tomlinson, her acting was amazing. It was just 10. Her acting was just everything. If I would recommend anybody to watch this film, I would say go and watch it purely for Mia Tomlinson's acting, because she is just wow. No, all jokes aside, she actually was a good actor. Like, she actually was like, I watched this one scene. Like, I did actually believe the terror in that scene, so yeah. But in all seriousness, if I had to rate this film from 1 to 10, which I'm going to do for you today, 1 being, I would never recommend this. Please do not watch. Sit at home and quite literally consume anything else. Number 10 being, if you don't watch this, I will send the Taliban to your house. Understood? Now, between goofy horror, horror's an afterthought, emotionally driven story with secondary horror, and great acting, if I'm completely honest, I would have to put this, initially I wanted to give it a 6. And I think that was because I did enjoy the film. It was funny, it had some good moments. There was some okay horror in there. So, initially I thought a 6 was fair, and I hate giving 5, so I'll never give a 5. But I think to be fair, I would have to go in between the two, and I would have to give it a 5.5 out of 10. To me, I would recommend, if you like The Conjuring, go watch this film. Go watch it. You will enjoy it. You will have a good time, and you will leave there not feeling like you wasted your money. Okay? I'll be honest. Yes, there's some goofy horror, but I think as all in all, if you can overlook some of the bullshit, I think you will just enjoy it. But also in that same breath, I will also say this: if you never watch this film, you aren't missing out on anything, to be completely honest. You're not really missing out on anything. So 5.5 seems fair. And realistically, if we're all being honest, I mean, you guys don't need to be haunted by, 3 ghosts and a fucking demon in order to come up with a rating like this. At the end of the day, all you need is an opinion. You better. Been around like hella propellers. Come on, fellas. That ain't none of your business. Go turn your body suit on your ass today. Was limited twice by horse name. It's the best thing of my magic bay. I've been swinging it back and forth to see your cars get bay. You're my best time. This is my best time.